But before we start, I want to commend Mary Furlong for always being here diligently filming, even on boring days, because you wouldn't believe how many people call me and say they saw something on the YouTube because of your video. So I didn't know how many people were really watching. I guess maybe when it's contentious, everybody
Yes.
watches.
Very
Yes, and
popular
thank
now.
you for sending me that one. I
By
appreciate
the way.
it.
Yeah.
Well, we
Thanks.
need to be able to put a link on the website so
Mhm.
that they can just link to the YouTube videos.
Mhm.
We need to be able to have that for her, so
Yeah.
it's easier to find
Yeah.
her.
If
You
I
mean
could-
I can watch you guys anytime I want to?
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh, is that Mary?
Not us
If,
guys.
if I could upload it here, I could, because you have a faster upload speed.
Oh.
I could actually post more. The ones that I post now, I'm driving into Missoula to upload them because it takes me like
Oh.
8 hours to upload 1 hour
Mhm.
from
Holy
my house.
cow.
You can do it, you can use my laptop and do it.
Okay, because I just wanna,
Yeah, anything to make your job easier, because I know it's a thankless job, but I wanted you to know people do watch
no,
what you do.
yours is the thankless.
Oh, well.
I get thanked all the time,
Thanks, Mary.
among other
Yes,
things.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So, all right, so everybody criticized me for going clockwise, creature of habit. So I guess we'll go with Judge Magone today.
Okay, well, not much new going on, we're staying busy. Seems like the traffic and speeding citations have dropped off somewhat, but there's a lot of civil landlord tenants going on, order protection, that type of thing. A lot of hearings, most of it pertains to driving on suspended license. We have 18 hearings scheduled today, and 15 of them are driving on suspended license, which the statute says there's minimum 2 days in jail, so nobody wants to plead guilty to that. And it's kind of ironic, because DUI, you get 1 day in jail, and driving on suspended because you didn't pay a fine or you didn't pay child support, gets you 2 days.
Yeah,
So, we've been staying busy with the hearings. I do have 19 hearings scheduled today, so, but we're hanging in there.
I know probably why. Your speeding tickets are probably dropped off because we're way down on highway patrolmen. We used to have 4 here, now we only have 2.
Yeah.
And so, same problem
You
everywhere.
can see that.
Yeah,
Affected it quite a bit, but those are pretty easy, really. Most people just pay those.
yeah,
Don't contest them usually.
yeah.
But, no, we've been staying busy and everybody's just hanging in there.
Roy, what's new with you?
Nothing new, just keeping up with the outside, inside. Sherry's doing excellent.
Good,
Plates.
good. And she's still happy? She's not like going, oh, I didn't know what I was getting into here or anything like that?
No. No. She gives me a rundown of what she's done for the day, and then she goes to the library.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it's the best it's been in a long time.
Really?
It's
Oh,
really
good.
nice, yeah, she does a very, very good job for us.
All right. Yeah. I have not really met her since, we'll have to tell her that ourselves too.
Yeah.
She's
Be
sneaking
here at
out when we
7:30
get
in the
Yeah,
morning.
Yeah.
right, she's,
Okay.
never see her, so.
Yeah.
Be here at 7:30 in the morning. You'll
Maybe
see.
we'll see her at a potluck or a Christmas party or something.
Yeah.
George,
Nothing going on. A few fires in other places, but we haven't had any. We've had one fire, I guess. I'll find out more this afternoon, but one up the hill here that was no problem. I had a question. Who keeps up with, or does anybody, the maintenance of the St. Regis Dike? You know where the St. Regis River comes down under the bridge? There's a dike from there to the Clark Fork. I know a few, how many years ago did we clean that off?
We just cleaned that off 2 years ago, me and Jason's crew. I remember
Did ya?
going down there. Yeah,
The trees and,
we took down all the brush and
couldn't have been 2 years ago, there's
Could've
20
been
foot
3 or
brush
4.
there. I was just wondering if somebody was keeping track of that.
so we cleaned.
I was looking at it this weekend and it's grown up.
Army
Yeah,
Corps
you can
wants
ask
to override
Jason, but-
everything, don't
They're the ones that insist we do it, I think. The last time I remember,
they? Another unfunded mandate, huh?
yeah. Well, only if you don't, I guess it's okay if St. Regis floods, but,
Excuse
hey,
me,
Wayne's not here to protect his area.
yeah, right.
Oh, Charlie, come on.
Hello.
Just a comment and a question. We've had a couple of wrecks, no big problems, no big spills. We couldn't get any blueberries either. But haven't had any difficulties much with that. Been working a lot on the communications plan. I sent you guys, everybody in the LEPC emailed it to you to take a look at. Any of you that are interested, and Lori, did you see that? Yeah, that will be our primary thing on our agenda this afternoon, and we had talked before about possibly building some communications capabilities. Went to the hospital emergency planning meeting yesterday. They're still going great guns on which doors should be locked and scheduling another shoot 'em up exercise and stuff. And having fun with it, planning a small exercise with, they've had a trailer since I think '03 is when we bought that with Homeland Security grants with a decontamination station and different things. They're gonna have an exercise on setting that up and actually making it work. Before too long, as soon as they can get everybody together. Other than that, things are nice and quiet, no disasters. Don't want to schedule any.
Miss Brown.
Morning.
Morning.
It is.
That's not all I
Really?
got. Yeah,
You don't have a bunch of trials scheduled?
I do. That's what I'm working on, my schedule of what attorneys to call and when I have to summon my jurors. Sorry.
How many are, is this just one, or we got a couple on the front burner?
I have 6 jurors currently scheduled between the last week of July and second week in September. So, you might get lucky. Don't get me that lucky.
I was gonna say, don't come after me, I haven't brought my questionnaire back yet.
I'll just come down, stand there as you fill it out. The sheriff's too busy to go around doing it for me, so I do it myself.
And did you say now that you're polling not only voters, but also people with valid driver's licenses? Because so many people have been dodging the jury list by saying, I'm not gonna vote.
Because they kept coming in and canceling.
Couldn't vote because he didn't want to,
Well, now we can't drive either
except
if
for
he
one
doesn't
night.
want
He-
to.
yeah.
I don't drive and I don't vote.
I sent mine in, but I forgot to add the part on the bottom that says, just go ahead and convict them, they're guilty.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to say that in person to get
Oh.
excused.
Oh, okay. I'll
In front of the
remember
judge and,
They want to gauge your believability?
Whether you need it or not.
And
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah?
that. I'll try it.
If it helps, George, go in there wearing a set of galoshes on your head and your eyes kind of askew and.
My tinfoil hat won't work.
That'll get you out of jury duty.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you of sound mind? Yes, sir, absolutely.
no.
Okay, well, jump back over to the weed man then if you're done, huh?
I'm done.
Boy, that was very informative. I'm glad you were here today. Make sure you don't miss another meeting. I'm on the edge of my seat. Can't
Hey,
wait.
hey.
The weed man never lets me down,
the
though.
quicker I can
He's-
get upstairs.
The weed man's always happy to tell me what's
We're
going
doing pretty good.
Growing weeds.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic year for growing weeds.
Oh, yeah.
We changed up our schedule a little bit. Road constructions and whatnot meant that we didn't bring in our normal highway contractor, which means we didn't receive as much money from the highway department, but we also didn't spend as much money doing the highways, so it's kind of just a wash on that. We get a biennial budget from the highway department for controlling weeds on MDT right-of-ways, so that wasn't a bad thing, but crew is still out, and so far our equipment is all working good, a couple little hiccups. Running into some interesting new, I don't know, it's not new, it's been in place since 5 years ago, but we just Fish, Wildlife and Parks just acquired that 320 acres of ground up Fish Creek, the Rabine property. And we got looking at statutes, and supposedly they're supposed to be paying us for doing their weed inventories. And for a 320 acre parcel, the only guidelines we had were our subdivision inspection reports, which means for $320, or 320 acres, I'd be charging them about $8,000
Cool.
for about 3 hours worth of work.
Make up for the taxes we don't get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my follow-up, what about the rest of the 38,000 acres
Well, yeah, that'd be a nice.
that they bought from
That'd
Plum
be
Creek?
$25 an acre.
Is it only applicable to the Rabine property and not the rest of it?
It's supposed to have been on that initial application, it's supposed to have been, they're supposed to get an inspection before they ever acquire the property. And that has not happened.
On
ever.
any of it?
Any state agency applying or receiving public property. And the State Department of Ag, they're not aware of any districts that have really requested that. It's supposed to be paid by the,
Seller.
the seller and reported before it ever transfers.
So what about when the feds transferred a bunch of this?
It's
Like
any,
4 Mile
it's
and-
any receipt of public property by the state agencies. So it's set up a little bit of a.
So the
another
Nature
work-
Conservancy should have done it before the Fish and Game bought it.
Right. So we're kind of going back and looking at it. It will probably be a different schedule. Of course. But the weed board's kind of looking at that. The weed board is also looking at, there's been some requests for getting certified inspected gravel for highway contracts. And the weed board had previously come up with standards which are adapted from what other states have produced. It's based on North American standards. We have an inspection form. The weed board kind of came up with an amount to charge for inspections. And it was supposed to go out for public review last month. It got sent to the papers and didn't make it in 3 papers. So we'll go ahead and publish it as an ad. I sent it in as a story, hoping that they would run it for less cost than an ad.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't pick up the story, so, so we'll run it as an ad, get public comment. Right now, based on last night's meeting, the weed board's looking at a $200 a year fee. And it's, gravel pits would be inspected twice a year, and have standards to maintain to keep their product as weed-free as possible. But, so we're looking at some new things for the weed board, so. And that's about it. Extension side, fair is a month away. A lot of things are gearing up, kids are excited. We've got 4-H youth that were back at Camp Perry, Ohio, just the end of June, competing in the civilian marksmanship program, national competitions, and the Junior Olympics. Those were held back-to-back back there. And we haven't gotten the final results, but preliminary results from 2 days. We had the top 2 shooters in the 11 and 12-year-olds, both days of competition for the CMPs. Two local youth.
Yeah.
So, what's that?
At the
Yeah, the national national competitions, competing against youth from all over the U.S.
Good for them.
So, it's just it really pays credit to our 4-H volunteers, and the amount of time that they're putting into working with these kids, and the opportunities that we have to send these kids off to something from little old Mineral County and competing at the national level. So it's good. Things are going well.
Good. And so back up, what did you say about the state didn't pay as much, did you switch contractors, or what was that part about? You said less money coming in?
We didn't bring our highway contractor in. So if he were in, normally he would do about 300 acres in addition to the 100 or 200 or so we do. But we didn't bring him in, so that means we don't bill the state for as much, so So we don't
So
have that
you
money
mean
going
just
out,
that-
so we don't have that money coming back in.
So you're talking about the interstate highway
Yeah.
wasn't sprayed, but, because I saw some weed crews on Courts and Old Tenant, Cedar, and,
Yeah,
So-
that's Mike, that's ours.
oh, okay.
Saw a lot of dead mullen.
That's good, you should.
Highway.
You should.
So we
And then
were-
the
okay,
state,
so that was Mike.
the state also has their own convoy that goes around and does delineator work on the guardrails and such, and that's like a 3 or 4 truck convoy
Okay.
that apparently went through at some point partway through the county.
Mm-hmm.
But they were just doing sterilant work around the guardrails and delineator posts, so.
So so you can alternate years, you don't have to do it every year, I suppose, especially if they're using Tordon, I guess, huh?
Well, it always depends. Some sections just about need it every year because of the amount of turnover, especially on the west end where the highway department turns over that first 6 feet of gravel pretty regularly. They scrape off all that sand,
Uh-huh.
and then the first thing that creeps back into that are the
Oh.
noxious weeds.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of times if they're real aggressive taking off that cast off sand, it almost needs a yearly
Yeah.
treatment.
Yeah,
So, because there's nothing being sand and gravel,
Yeah.
the first 6 to 10 feet of a road surface doesn't really hold any kind of residual herbicides.
mm-hmm.
So, and in some settings.
And that knapweed's so bad, ranchers used to say you could take a 5-gallon bucket of gravel, spread it on the hood of your pickup, and you could grow a weed on it. Yeah. What's the status of with Mineral County and that leafy spurge, that super weed, or whatever you wanna call it?
We got lots of it.
Yeah.
And there's still,
It's
there
healthy.
still is no way to,
There really isn't, you know, they put a bunch of hope into biocontrols back in the 60s. Biological control, it's an insect that eats or weakens a plant, but very rarely does it actually kill it. We have found some success with knapweed control insects. If they're hitting multiple points in the plant, they're hitting the seed production, they're hitting the flowers, they're hitting the stems, they're mining out the root, that's very effective. Leafy spurge, one of its benefits and what makes it such a noxious weed is that the roots go extremely deep. There are growing nodes or points all along that root. So if you kill the top 19 feet of a 20-foot deep plant, that's great, but 3 or 4 years later, it's gonna grow from that foot that's left and just reestablish.
and those nodes or nodules are protecting it from chemical as well as any insect.
The plant has a pretty good chemical defense in that latex sap that it has, and it produces a little block when it senses injury, and it's probably been more than 20 years now. University of Idaho and Washington were trying to look at some way of amino acids or tricking the plant into not producing that, and they haven't had any success or any luck with that. So we have significant infestations of leafy spurge in the Navoti Creek area, west of town out here at Pardee.
Up Namoti Creek, I thought this stuff like to travel down rivers, how did it get up there?
It's been up
It's
there
all
on state
over up
grounds.
there.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
since
Wonder how it was
1948 was the first report of leafy spurge on the Navoti Creek site.
Really?
And that's when we started treating it back then.
Do we know how it got up there?
Probably infested hay
Hmm,
that was hauled up there. At best guess, I don't know
Yeah.
that they ever really determined. And then we have constant infestation coming down the river. And the river corridors are difficult because you really are limited in where you can treat, what you can treat, what you can use, and it'll grow in places that the biocontrols won't establish. They get flooded out, so it is difficult. So at best, we try to keep it off the travel corridors and keep it from spreading. But it's difficult. I mean, we could spend millions of dollars and just kind of fight it to a standstill on that one loan. So we try to concentrate more on the new plants that are not or just coming into the county or aren't here in very large infestations or large amounts,
mhm.
and keep those from spreading and getting any worse than they already are. So
Huh. Interesting. Mr. Chamberlain,
3-phase is in place at the airport. It's up and running at Superior Meats, so the groundwork is done. We had a final inspection yesterday. Department of Commerce came over, went through all the books, all the paperwork, all the reports, and they were very pleased with what they saw. Took them out for a tour at Superior Meats and took her around to the airport. So we're waiting for an invoice from Missoula Electric, and then we can close out that community development block grant, economic development. So that part is all but done. Just the usual stuff as far as other things. Working with Lake County Community Development. They have one grant in place that's going to supplement some of Emily's wages for May, June. We're finalizing the contract for that. And then there's another year on this large grant that will bring in monies to offset the operations part of it and some of the salary that we take out of the economic development revolving loan fund part. So it'll diminish what we're using out of it and actually put money back into that fund. And then I met with Gypsy Ray yesterday of Lake County, and she's working on another grant through rural development that would provide technical assistance, and maybe we're hoping it'll work towards getting the Mineral County Economic Development Corporation, the 501c3 that we have. It's going to get technical assistance, board training. Kathleen's on that board, so I'm looking at her. Board training, work on policies, procedures, also provide some hard monies for wages, salary, consultant type stuff to work on things. And so the intent with that would be to help with, for instance, the airport layout plan and the revision of that, and be able to work towards land swap to get to the point where we can begin to say, this point's industrial, that point's industrial, and here's what it's gonna take to get somebody there. That's the next step after the 3 phases in place. So this hopeful grant from the RD would work towards that, as well as offset some more of the county expenses that we pay. I will be bringing a letter for your perusal and hopeful signature that dedicates a certain amount of my salary and Emily's salary that the county already pays towards match. It won't be any additional fees. There's a $75,000 figure on it, which looks ominous, but it's money that the county already spends over a 3-year period. So it would just serve as match towards that, which it's a function that we already do in the office, so. May not be a big deal, but our area supervisor, Steve Sieglin, who you know meets with you once every year or other year or whatever, he's moving on to another position on campus. So there will be a new person in his place. Don't expect any big changes or anything.
someone yet to be selected.
Yeah, they haven't even got the search committee together yet, so. But that's about it from us. Usual stuff with plants dying or growing too much, or, we get one person wants to kill them all, the other one wants to try and resuscitate one, and so we're in a mix there. Animals, fair's looking good as far as the number of animals, that kind of thing. The 4-H support with the current families we have is just amazing, all the way across the board in all the project areas. They had turned in all of their project books. Emily and Laurel Haskins went through them all, just to check, make sure they were up to date and wherever, and that was a pretty big effort, but they got it done. Haven't had any canning questions yet, a lot of gardening type stuff, soil tests, some of those sorts of things. It's just usual. So I'll shut up.
How do I get rid of horseradish?
Eat it. Give it away. Leave it on somebody's car seat. It's right in there with zucchini.
No, I mean, how do you kill it?
Dig it up. Leave it on
Harvest enough of
somebody's
it, you
car
won't kill
seat.
it.
Dig it up.
I'll take it if you don't want it.
Yeah.
Dig it,
Dig it, harvest the root, and then leave it on somebody's car seat. And then when the zucchinis come in, you'll already have your pattern established.
There you
Liz
go.
has a hole about this deep and she's still digging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
One little
gosh.
patch.
Yeah. No, it's,
You gotta
it'll go
dig.
forever.
That's crazy.
Sound like it's a weed almost.
It can. It can. Unless you want it.
Is that
Yeah.
one of those ones that
Yeah.
takes forever to get it established and then you can't get rid of it?
It doesn't take any time to get it established.
Really?
No.
That's one thing I haven't tried to plant yet.
I'll bring you.
Okay.
I'll bring you a
Jordan
little,
will help you with that.
little
All
bitty
right.
one, and you stick it in the ground, and then you'll be trying to get
Awesome.
rid of it in a year or two, because
Nah.
it'll take over.
It'll fit right in with the rest of the weeds in my yard.
Now, what's new with Stacy?
I'm plugging along. Just got back from the, what used to be called IACRIOT, International Association of Elected, I don't know, clerks, recorders, treasurers, I can't remember what the acronym stands for. They just merged with another corporate, or not corporation, but group that, so now it's gonna be called International Association of Government Officials, IGO or something. Last year when I went to Vail, I did the election side of it, and this time I did the recorder's side of it, which was kind of cool. Learned about back scanning, like all the documents that are in the books and stuff, and actually trying to get them into our program and different ways to make that. all
Is that microfiche or some other method now?
some of the microfilm, and some of it you're better off doing it right from the books, which is stuff that, I mean, I wouldn't have had a clue, you know. So brought back some good information on that, and hopefully make it a little more, or a little less costly, more cost efficient. It's something that'll take years to get done, you know, because we've only been on the computer since '98, only been scanning documents into the computer since '05. So there's obviously a whole bunch back
Catch up.
there. But lots of good information there. The State Association of Clerk and Recorders pays for that. So I'll get all those bills sent in and get that paid back. Other than that, just plugging along. Survived the election. Looking forward to November being over. That's it.
Everybody.
Yeah, tired of the news and the people and the comments and, you know, no matter, it seems like you tell them you don't want to talk about it or you can't talk about it, and that's all they want to talk about when they come in the office. It's hopefully I
So you're
won't.
becoming an expert on Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton,
Oh
right?
my gosh, yeah. And everybody else that's out there. But that's it.
So Peggy, in the health department.
Well, I just thought I'd give you some year-end statistical data regarding our STDs, animal bites, and rabies investigation and immunizations. So it looks like year-to-date for communicable diseases, we had 44 total, that being hepatitis A, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, chlamydia, and gonorrhea.
Nice.
Animal bites, we had 21 cases to date. Immunizations for this last fiscal year, we gave 847 immunizations. So everything looks like it's on the increase. Tim, I'm glad you're here because on our theft deliverables, we received notification that the sanitarium portion of the theft deliverables wasn't complete. So if I could have your help with that, I would appreciate it. And then we can get paid. That's it?
Okay. Mr. Tim Reed, we saved you for last.
Not much. Guess we got through Silver Cloud, pretty innocuous up there, group and stuff. Had a few food services that I took some look at. Got through the car show. Some bumps along the way there, but we'll see how that works out for maybe another year, I guess. Couple pending subdivisions that were been talked about for quite some time, but not really materializing. We're maybe getting a few closer there. Sewer permits about the same as last year. Kind of the DQs up the creek. They did their black ops, flew the drone, got to the Forest Service, the drone got shot down. So I guess the Forest Service doesn't like drones on top of their property or whatever, so that's the thing, but.
The Forest Service shot down the drone?
Yeah. They didn't want it.
Oh.
You literal there, George?
Well,
Well, we are in Mineral County, I thought they were
I totally took it that way,
You
Joe.
too.
We do have kids that compete at national shooting competitions. Drone's a hell of a target.
The Forest Service and all the 92 people that had to give approval could not give approval, so, anything else. But if you happen to see these photos of some Forest Service ground, we shall act like they do not exist, but that's okay.
Jim Schultz didn't shoot it down.
Why do they, because don't they put those wildlife cameras all over in the woods? Why not have a drone?
You have to have FAA approval to
Oh, that's,
fly over federal lands.
ah.
So, anyway, they thought they'd gone through the things, but I guess it didn't happen and stuff, but I thought it was a good idea, because they're gonna, they flew it now and got the before pictures, and then they're gonna trash it all up and beat it all up and dig it up, and then they're gonna take after pictures, so I thought that'd be kinda cool. Anyway, got a bunch of neat drone pictures that looks like a bunch of trees on the ground, I guess. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, they're pretty happy. They got their big pile of dirt secured, so pretty soon we'll see 52,000 trucks driving through Superior hauling dirt pretty soon. So that ought to be a real interesting little thing. So
where are they getting the dirt?
the 5J's Ranch property located near and about St. Regis, Montana. Jensen's.
Ranch?
That's the Jensens.
Oh,
And how many truckloads will be coming back and forth?
50,000, I don't know, they want 30,000 yards, and they can't decide whether they're gonna try to haul side dumps or whatever. And we're telling them side dumps aren't gonna fit through the town Superior.
Right.
If you wanna just take out the bar parking lot and a few other things up there and just make a thoroughfare or something like that after the bridge, have at it or something. So, there'll be a few local employees getting to flag at people here pretty soon this fall, so we'll see how that all goes and stuff.
Are they gonna use local guys to haul it up there, and do they have to have that
No,
Hans
they're not
Whopper
gonna
thing?
use local guys, they're using a bidder beware and everything else, and they will not break that bid up, and it is gonna be another cockamamie around again, anything like that, because their favorite bidder comes out of,
Missouri?
he lives between Butte and Anaconda and stuff, and he bids most of the projects, and he's had all of the DEQ projects on the upper Silverboard, so, and you can almost see the writing on the wall that he's gonna get the project again and stuff, so. But, he could subcontract out just because he's gonna need trucks and stuff, so. So we'll see, it's gonna be a real interesting.
When will that probably come to fruition, where they're actually tires on the road doing that?
Yeah, I mean, if, you know, if the guy's ramped up and has all of the trucks, but there's not a lot of outfits that have do that have that capability to put that many trucks in a short order and dedicate them and stuff.
So when do you think that they're supposed to actually start doing the work?
Well, they're gonna try to do something late September, October and stuff. They're gonna mill around up there and say we started, but we really didn't start, and that they just have to save face with somebody that said they were gonna start something this year, so. We'll see, because they can't figure out how big a hole to dig in the repository up there to put everything in it and stuff, so. We'll see. I shot several proposals at them for the road department to do road work up there, and nope, we're doing this, no, we're doing that, and everything else. And then a month later, they come back and they go, say, do you think the road department would be interested in doing some maintenance work for us up there? They just cannot grab a concept that somebody else has a thought and idea and stuff. We'll let them have their little fun up there, I guess.
You could talk them into tunneling under the town and getting us more drainage.
Going up there?
Put in a big tunnel instead of that culvert
Yeah,
to the river.
pass through the tunnel and stuff. That'd work. So we're down a planning board member, might have to look for one of those one of these days. It'd be nice to have somebody more or less out of the West End and stuff. Not so sure few reports of more crazies moving into the West End, so that might be a toss-up of whether you want somebody to.
Define crazy.
West
A
End.
guy convicted of this crime, that crime, and that crime, and got kicked out of this state, and got kicked out of that state, and convicted of more for fines and abuse and everything else. But he lands in Borgia and opens up his new troubled youth residence.
Oh my God.
Oh,
That's who I want to send
At
my
least
kids
the,
to.
at least the neighbors are on it, so. So the biggie was to throw together the CDBG grant application, for the Department of Commerce. That was assembled, put together and everything else. I'm gonna conveniently blame Kevin if we don't go very far. No.
Well, he asked me for input and I was on annual leave and
So,
filed his request.
so.
So he owes me one now, and next time I ask him for something, it'll get lost too, so.
Anyway, the grant application was for 20-some thousand from the CDBG, so we had a match of 67.50 here, so that turned out fairly well and stuff. I ended up with about, I think, 13, 14 support letters in there, so I think we could make the case for the grant and do that. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think it would be nice to even charge ahead this summer and try to put that quasi-committee together and try to survey people that come to the fair. And I've had a few thoughts that we need somebody hanging on the fence with a click, and play clicker counter and stuff. I don't know how you judge attendance and something like that, but.
Still got that drone?
Okay.
Take a couple pictures every hour on the hour over the fairgrounds and do a, just rough, graphomatic.
Can we see him?
Everybody look up, smile, yeah. So that's about all, other than things just cooking along with the usual other complaints and issues. The FEMA wrote me a nasty gram about some place out at St. Regis that has taken them 12 years to discover that could be a potential violation, and I said after 12 years it's not really a potential anymore. Either it was or it wasn't, but they seem to think we should get all excited. But I don't think the Cantrells want to jack their place up about 2.5 feet, but we'll see. Maybe we'll give them some options, so see how that one works
Which
out.
place, the cafe or the fishing?
Fisherman's Lodge, they want it raised by 2.5 to 3 feet, I think, so that it actually is above the floodplain level out there. So
not a problem.
I don't know how many bricks that takes to set it on to make it up there, but we'll see.
And it wouldn't cost anything, I'm sure. And everybody's made of money, so.
So that's about all on the county environmental health side of things.
You mentioned drones. There was one in Alberton recently. Bob listed the ranch out there for sale.
Oh, really?
Thompson Ranch, and they brought a drone out and took pictures of the whole place and the springs and everything here last week.
Who's
So
the
the real estate agents can run drones.
Oh, the realtor did that?
Yeah.
Anybody shoot at it?
It's ran by a 11-year-old, so probably not. The 11-year-old is running it. It's really cool.
Huh.
I wonder who's gonna look at that. I always thought Town Pump would probably eyeball that spot for a gigantical truck stop.
Yeah.
Huh.
There's a lot of possibilities there. And he dropped the price enough that he's asking $1.5 million now, so.
For how many acres?
There's almost 640 acres,
Uh-huh.
640 acres minus the roads that go through it,
Mhm.
I guess. So
They've got a good setup with the pond and the irrigation and.
the water rights, the amount of water that comes out of that spring is
I know it.
a huge asset. And there's quite a few things about it that make it pretty desirable. Unless, of course, you just absolutely do not want another piece of property of any kind.
Uh-huh.
somebody young who's willing to do a whole bunch of stuff, or some high-powered developer will probably jump in there.
Yeah, because farming's kind of going by the wayside, at least in Mineral County. It's not really, I don't see a farmer wanting to buy it for that much money, but.
Most
With the
people,
water on it though, that would help.
most people have discovered that in order to farm, you have to have a really good paying job or a lot of money to start with to support that habit.
So you're not gonna buy it, George?
No.
Didn't take him long to think about it.
And Tim, you said the word, earlier you said Sober Cloud. Was that little musical concert thing?
Yeah, it was good. It was interesting. There was something down by the creek that I really wanted to come up with a reason of why I should check the water quality out down by the creek, because there was something really interesting going on down there. Everybody would truck down there and truck back and truck, and they were up and down, and they're all down in there, but I just couldn't figure out the water quality violation that would stand.
Just put a couple pH strips in the water, that'll tell you right away.
Yeah, I could've went downstream.
Now that,
They had like 300-400 people the first night, and I don't know, the next night they had 600-700 people. I think there was a little less than they thought.
that was over the Memorial Day weekend, wasn't it?
It was the same as a car show.
Oh, okay.
Got to do double up and do car show. and
Yeah.
Silver Cloud at the same time.
Did you get more interesting pictures there than you did at the car show?
Very few, very few. Just not enough worth to crank up the old thing to look at.
Did you think of anything else to add, Kathleen Brown, after all that?
No, I have my,
Oh,
what I need to.
okay.
Thank you.
I thought maybe someone might have stimulated your memory there. I'm just teasing. Dennis, anything from the street?
Well, I'll just keep on going to as many meetings as I can, trying to be involved and keep a general overview of everything.
Do you attend the RAC meetings, by the way?
Yeah.
Anything new out of that?
No, they're trying to set up a meeting in a couple of months for the final go-around this time for the project, to approve the projects, and they haven't confirmed that date yet. And the other thing then is that just about everybody's term is going to expire at the end of September, and they have no idea what's going to happen. We just keep getting less and less money, and
Do they have any money?
yeah, they got a tiny amount left, but we won't know that until towards.
So that's left from the last appropriation?
Yeah.
So there's nothing on Secure Rural Schools at this point, is that correct?
No, I haven't heard any word on it yet. I think we got word on PILT though. Yeah. So the projects are still kind of the similar ones, spray here, spray that trail,
Right.
nothing earth-shattering different along those lines.
No. Of course, I won't know what they are until we get them all copied and given out to everybody. And, but there's usually more projects than there is money.
Mhm.
So then we just kind of try to figure out where best to put the effort at.
Okay. Well, all right, thank you all for coming.
We all went on the Red Bull Forest Service tour of the Red Bull.
Oh, yes, Lori, tell us about that.
It was over 50 people there that went on it. Diversified group. There was, the LRC had 4 people there, but it was really a good tour.
Mhm.
I think there was a lot of good information brought forward. So Carol was very pleased. Tim Garcia was surprised, blown away that there was that much interest in this. And so I think that really makes a difference when it comes to the
Decision making?
decision making as to the interest that's here, so,
There's a
Well,
big-
Region One even said it was unheard of.
yep.
So that means the Washington office is now paying attention, so. And it's one to watch, because there could be some things that go contrary to maybe what you consider good management of our public lands within Mineral County, so pay attention to it. There's another one coming out. We just got the decision notice in the email from the Murphy Creek, the little project out here on Southside Road that is asking, I guess it's a decision, so there's no commenting on it. And that's supposed to be starting. And then there's Jamcracker, which is from Flat Creek all the way to into 9 Mile.
And what are these?
They're all EIS. This one's an EA, but it's the next projects for the Forest Service on that side. And they are going to be wanting comment on the Jamcracker one, and that's a big one. And they're looking, that's in that grizzly bear recovery area thing, and so we really, if you like roads, want roads, don't like roads, don't want roads, pay attention to this one, because that's gonna be a crux of what they do up there. There's not a whole lot of water over there, so there's not a whole lot of fish issues and all that kind of stuff. But they are doing an awful lot as far as work, closing some roads that are currently open. And they are, we're talking wildlife management area, closing off more area. Our suggestion was leave the roads open and burn the roadless area. I don't know if that went over real big or not, but anyway, that was kind of the comments that I had for them. So we'll see what comes out in the document, but it'll be, the EA will have like their 4 alternatives that they're considering, and so they want comments on your preferred alternative. It doesn't take much, a couple sentences and a paragraph or whatever, but that keeps you in the loop, and it tells them that locals are paying attention, because you can bet the enviro groups that get paid to pay attention are definitely paying attention. So the more we can offer from here, the stronger our local case is, because we get to live with the decisions they make, so.
Do you know if 9 Mile has pulled some roads and seeded them in the last year or two? Driving home yesterday, or the day before, I noticed up on some of the slopes there, bare slopes, you see these green stripes that look like old logging roads that have been pulled, and I thought,
Yeah.
We
Rennick
noticed that
Stark-
across through there at Fish Creek on that. We noticed
Rennick
that the other
Stark
day.
had some in it that they pulled.
yeah, I wondered why. I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
that's always
well,
the question.
I can understand why they didn't want a road there. I mean, there's not gonna be a tree there harvestable for another
right.
100 years. But I noticed these stripes.
Yep.
That would be roads.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Got the wrong
I was
name.
talking to Sean Meyer, and he's been down on that Bridgetown face, or whatever it's called, and they're decommissioning the roads, and he says he's going in there and having to take out trees this big around in order to get in there with an excavator to then decommission the road. He says it's just mind-boggling as to,
It's a
you know,
jobs program.
what they're doing.
No, that was, the Frenchtown face actually came out before Cedar Tom.
Yeah.
And so it was back in the era of ridiculous.
Yeah.
It seems like there's and I don't know if it's true, but it seems as though there's more of a common sense approach to not closing, taking out the prism, but just block it and leave it, kind of thing, without spending the huge dollars to decommission a road. And we're strongly pushing to not have them decommission roads. If they're there, let's figure out ways to open them, let's figure out ways to improve the access rather than take it out. And they're finally looking at it from the recreational component that roads offer, which is, that first showed up in the 12 Tamarack EA up St. Regis, where they actually added roads as opposed to taking out roads that are currently open for travel. So that was the first time I'd ever seen that. So, anyway, maybe it's shifting, I don't know. Carol Johnson being in that position now, and her predecessor, Tanya Brummett, kind of shifted the synergy of the agency and focused a lot more on community and local input. And then with Tim Garcia in the seat and Debbie Austin gone, that was probably one of the bigger changes that it's allowed us to make some form of headway to getting our forest back. So.
Yep.
But now.
Still, the biggest issue now is to hire those vacant positions.
Mhm.
Not get hardly anything done without getting some employees back on
Well, and it was interesting because the Red Bull trip, the staff there was probably median age of 24.
Yep.
It seemed like, you know, and these are biologists that are coming out of Enviro U over there, and those are the ones that we get to work with. Well, it's kind of interesting to hear them think out of the box as to how to, they're looking at moving part of the South Fork of the Little Joe Road away from the creek because of the siltation issue. First, they were talking closing it. Well, now they're looking at moving it up the mountain and kind of opening it up and getting it away from, so that's a change in thought, which is different that we haven't seen before. So it still will provide access to everything that we want to do up that valley, yet it helps with the siltation in the creek. So that thought process is positive in my eyes. But that's coming from this younger generation of ologists that they now have in their employ.
One of the other things that, on that field trip was that I picked up is just what Kevin said, but also the idea that they didn't have the background of the old ways of doing things. And so they don't have any exposure or experience in thinking on that, in that time, in that framework, because sometimes the older ways were not just as efficient as trying to reinvent the wheel. And I mentioned that to a couple of people, and so it'll bear watching if the young staff now is wanting to really participate. This is the opportunity for them to learn some of those new parameters that were really our old parameters, and have a bigger box to draw ideas from. So hopefully something like that'll come out of it.
All right, and Tommy's here. He's went around the room, so I guess you're last.
I've been busy on a call, so I realized this was going on, so I got in here since I could. Micah graduated from the academy. We went to his graduation last Friday, 2 Fridays ago, so he's back to work, so we're thankful for that. Still have 2 guys that are on FTO once they're done. I don't know when the last time we were fully staffed for deputies. I mean, it hasn't been in my time since I've been. I don't know that Ernie, his whole time either, so hopefully.
Yeah, I think he always had somebody off on work comp or something.
Something,
Yeah.
yeah. So Boone is scheduled to have more surgery on his shoulder. I think it's the 20th of this month. So he'll be on work comp for, I don't know how long. He'll find out next Tuesday. He has a pre-op meeting with his doctor, and hopefully they'll be able to answer all that stuff, and we'll know where we're at. So other than that, our excitement from a couple of weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, thank you for your help with that. The article wasn't 100% accurate. That was in the middle. But that's okay. I mean,
the main point got out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The main part. So it definitely was a situation that could have ended a lot worse. So
Yeah.
we're thankful for the way it turned out.
Is this the high-speed chase you're referring to?
Oh, no, that was another one.
This is the arm.
I'm not.
An armed standoff.
What you're
This was
talking about
a
here.
gun call from a
St.
couple
Regis.
Fridays, or Mondays that go down in St. Regis.
It's in the new mineral lab.
And it's been a festering, ongoing kind of thing. I mean, we've had a lot of issues with this individual, and there's been death threats. So, and the guns were there and available to this individual, and it definitely could have ended a lot worse than it did. She ended up getting tased, and we were able to take her into custody with no shots fired at all. So,
That's good.
yeah, turned out good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't know she had been drinking too, but that definitely adds fuel to the fire.
She's typically not a drinker.
Mhm.
Yeah, she
She's
was.
she's just kind of different that way all the time. I guess.
Well, and I mean, I don't know her health history. I know a little bit, and and I can't discuss that because of HIPAA and all that, but, hopefully through all this adjudication process, if that's determined that maybe she can get the help she needs.
Yeah.
So,
So, Tom, I have a question. I think I got the same contact that you did about a gentleman moving into the West End. Maybe we need to talk about a little protocol and stuff. I mean, because he's violating things on my side of things that I could start talking to this guy, but, and if that, some of that history's halfway true and stuff like that, I don't know. Guy with a youth home up there, troubled youth home or something like that, but I don't know how you wanna handle that stuff, but if you've got some suggestion, I'm all ears about it.
come see me. We can talk about it.
Getting more of them all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So the two guys, that would probably be Rhoda and Travis, right? So how much longer do they each have until they're,
they're getting close. I'd have to look to
by
tell
fair
you.
time, you'll be off? Or?
They might be, but as far as the fair's concerned, it's not gonna matter. They're all gonna be there regardless.
Right.
They might be close, real close then. I'd have to look.
I was just thinking of a milestone when I mentioned the fair, to remember it by, but yeah, well, good.
Yeah.
Well, all right. And did you finish, you were talking about Red Bull, was there
Yeah,
anything
no,
else?
I think it was
Yeah.
a good tour.
Oh, I know, that, speaking of the Forest Service, and maybe Kevin, you know the answer to this, but it seems that Idaho is following in
Oh,
the
I saw that
footsteps of
yesterday.
Missoula with wanting to honor the Great Burn designation or proposal. So as you
I saw that
understand
yesterday's paper.
that 64 Wilderness Act, it stays as de facto wilderness until they either decide to approve it, but could they also conversely decide to put it up for vote to reject it, and then it would, so one or the other has to occur before we can start using that area again. It's either gotta be.
Oh, yeah,
It's gotta be.
Congress puts it up as a wilderness study area to see if it meets the legislative or the law's description of wilderness. And the key words in wilderness is untrammeled by man. And that's the level of interpretation that goes all the way down. A case could be made that Sheep Mountain and Great Burn is not untrammeled by man. There's roads, there's trails, there's evidence of human.
Mhm.
But you can go into the Bob Marshall, which is a wilderness area, and see homesteads and see cabins and see evidence of human whatever in there. And the same thing with down the Bitterroot. So that's the debate at Congress. So if one of our delegation decides to shove it through, which would most likely be Tester, would shove it through as a motion to approve it as a wilderness area.
Oh, could someone else, like Danes or Zinke, shove it through as a motion?
If it
to
goes
reject?
down in defeat, supposedly then it would not be considered as a wilderness study area any longer. They've been hesitant to ask the question for the last 30-some odd years for obvious reasons. It's a de facto wilderness right now in the fact that it's a study area and how you can actually work in there or do things in there. So they're comfortable leaving it that because they're not real comfortable with what the final question, the
Yeah.
answer to the question that would be asked is it or isn't it?
Yeah,
And so they just as soon leave it as a de facto wilderness as ask the question. So that's what has to be decided, to push it one way or the other, or what it finally included. They are kind of picking up the discussion with regards to what it would take to get across the board approval. And Carol Johnson says something to the effect that if you take out the Hoodoo Basin at the top and take out those two lakes, we'll support you. You know, and so that part didn't sit well with those persons, the Great Burn Study Group and those entities that were asking the question. So what that may do is again prolong the term before that final question is asked. They're also, Sharon Sweeney and company are also trying to push to have Sheep Mountain considered as wilderness, which to me, it borders right up to, as does part of the Great Burn, it borders right up to private ground.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to trade in your chainsaw for a crosscut saw to go in there and fight fire,
Mm-hmm.
it ain't gonna work. And so I hope there's an opposition, a strong opposition to calling that little piece, which I don't know that it meets the criteria because it has to be so many thousand contiguous acres. There's a size, climate that goes with it, all this kind of thing. So, but I guess I can see where the Sheep Mountain one would cause a lot more problems than the Great Burn. And so, but the wilderness question, I think, probably will come up this year, next year. They're trying to garner support for it. They had the workshop with hiking groups or whatever over at the ambulance barn. They had a little workshop thing, and I guess there was 10 or 15 people there, which that's fine. I think it's great to bring out the idea of hiking in the mountains and using the woods and all this kind of stuff. And so that's all fine and great. I think it's good. And we've never, the Resource Coalition has never expounded what people say. We just want them to say. So they can be for or against or whatever they want to do. I just want to get people's voices out. I'm not gonna, we don't attempt to dictate. I have my own personal strong feelings that everybody's very well aware of, but that's not necessarily the group. So.
I just, with the 10 or 11 current designated wilderness areas, just an hour drive from Missoula, it seems to me that would be a good argument to vote down any more. I mean, we're already just a big national park all around us, so. But I didn't know, maybe that is risky. Maybe it would still, maybe bringing the question up in DC would only have it be approved and then that. But what difference does it make? It's de facto anyway, so.
Right, and that's why they're afraid to ask the question, because if a true genuine look is taken at it, there's gonna be holes in their arguments.
Yeah.
And so, right now, the way it is, they can ignore the wilderness laws, go in and actually fight fire and actually do things under extreme case. There's clauses that they can use to still manage it. They don't, but they can. And then as far as restricting the snowmobile on the upper end of it and all that kind of thing, to me, that's, I don't know, you've heard me talk about that before.
But in the instance of the Fish Creek fire last year, they wouldn't even, that's wilderness, we can't do anything there. So, I mean, they wouldn't even touch it.
So it's, and then the other part of the concern nationwide is that the fire starts in a wilderness area, builds a head of steam and comes out.
And that's what happened.
Then what do you
last
get to
year.
do with it? So the whole point, like for Sheep Mountain, and even what we saw with Fish Creek, granted, there's not too much full-time occupancy up there, and it's more of a recreational, but still it's private property. This Sheep Mountain borders full-time residents, Superior, whatever. And so, and that's been some of the arguments that basically squelch anything up in the St. Regis area towards wilderness, because of that whole notion of it builds steam. One that was interesting to me was the tribes on the Idaho Panhandle and their discussion of why they are opposed to having wilderness on their tribal lands. Because they're just morally opposed to it, because then that takes away their stewardship ability to go in and actually fix something that needs fixing and then back out. We can manage it as wilderness, but we still have the opportunity to go in and do something. Well, there's nothing, we got roadless area, we got all this other area. It's managed basically as wilderness, because you have to have congressional approval to go in there and build a road or do any logging or anything like that. So you're already kind of at that level. You have to have congressional approval. I remember in the Bob, they had a patch of leafy spurge out in the middle on an old homestead, and the Forest Service was wanting to go in and spray it, and they had these backpacks that had a little motor on them that would pump. Well, they had to get congressional approval to go do it.
Really?
Yeah, to take this little backpack sprayer with a little 12-volt motor on it to get approval to go spray weeds. Well, they never got the approval, so now the patch of leafy spurge takes in, I don't know how many 100,000 or how many thousand acres. So, anyway, that's the whole argument for and against. But the Bob and the Scapegoat and all those ones that are wilderness, there's a lot of reason to keep them and maintain them that way, so.
Yeah. Just not much of an economy, but snowmobiling and that backwoods recreation is something, and I just get so tired of how many people are actually gonna be able to walk and hike these thousands and thousands Sharon
Well, they
Sweeney
can't-
probably doesn't even walk that
They
much.
can't maintain them right now.
Yeah.
They're not maintaining the trails because they can't, they don't have the budget to do it. Recreation's the bottom of the pile when it comes to having monies to do anything, and so they have to rely on the volunteers, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. If it wasn't for the Great Burn Study Group, I doubt you could get around very much in the wilderness area.
Wonder how this Idaho decision is gonna affect those guys that they drive, well, it's a paved road going through there, and they have to access their cabins, some of those cabins back there, Broken Nose and Bluff Creek area. I wonder, can they still go in the winter on their snowmobiles and be at the...
Normally, what they do on those is they have a, if you own private property within a wilderness area, it has to stay in your family, and then they'll even put a clause on it that when that generation is gone, it goes back to the federal government. kind of
Really?
thing. Yeah, they're doing that in Alaska. There's a whole TV show on it up
Yeah.
there of they call it the last.
Alaskan.
Yeah.
Mm.
And there are people that own holdings within wilderness area in Alaska, and once this generation is passed on, the lands recede back to the federal government. And I don't know if they're paid for it, I assume they are, I don't know, but anyway, it goes away. And so they have those kind of clauses. I know over on the Bitterroot side, and I think it has to do with the Idaho wilderness area over there is an in-holding. And the problem was they wanted to extend the runway to get in there because they wanted a larger aircraft to be able to go in, and they wouldn't let them. And so they do everything they can to squeeze them out. So, anyway.
Does any of that proposed wilderness, does any of it, other than what you're talking about, Sheep Mountain, does any of it come into Montana?
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit of it?
Yeah, all the Great
I thought it was
Burn
all
is,
mostly on this, like on the state line, but it does come
no,
down
it
in.
comes a long ways this way in terms of the
I know.
Great Burn.
Fish Creek does.
Yeah.
Is there,
Fish Creek, and it comes clear over to Trout Creek and the top up there, Hoodoo Meadows, Heart Lake, all that is in it. Oregon Lakes, I think, is in it. No,
Wow.
maybe not Oregon Lake.
Fish
And I
Lake?
think it comes right to
Trout Creek
Hoodoo
Road.
because you can't ride a motorcycle towards Hoodoo Lake, but you can towards St. Joe Lake.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
right at the Hoodoo is where the,
But yeah, it comes way into the county.
yeah.
Tom, if you get the green Forest Service map,
It's
where
it's all this, Tom.
where it's different colored shade,
I didn't realize it came down that much.
Oh, yeah.
we lost probably about a third of the county that way.
The other thing that'd really be nice is to see an exact map that details it, because if you try to do anything with Great Burn, all you see is you get the Great Burn Study Group, and they're the ones that seem to be the holders of the map. The Forest Service map has Idaho roaded area abutting up against Montana Great Burn Wilderness area. I find that pretty disingenuous to have roaded area on that side of the state line versus nothing on this side of the state line.
Yeah.
Well, the Great Burn used to have a road in it, and the tread is probably still there, even though it's trying to be grown over, but
On the state
we've got a
line.
lot of people here that have driven up there before, but it's declared it as a proposal.
Well, in the Great Burn Study Group, if you go on their website, it's actually quite informative. They brag about having 1.1 million acres, which extends over into Idaho under like management. And that's the term they use, is like management. And so basically, there's a huge chunk of the Clearwater down there that is managed as this study area, and so it's worth spending a little time on the website to just kind of find out the tenor and where they're at with the thing. They're wanting a large chunk of the area. And I don't know that they'll get it in Idaho, but
So will that proposed area around Sheep Mountain, will that go to the state line?
no, I don't believe it does. Well, it might. Yeah, it would go up kind of, it's here, Sheep Mountain. So it's all of this, it butts right down to private ground here. It's this whole piece in here. See how they cut it out and they make islands of and all this kind of stuff. But it's this whole chunk here. And so they're trying to create a corridor. So you got this up here, they're after that too. So anyway, this whole thing here, to me, this is spooky
Yeah.
to have this level this close to here.
Yeah.
Because if that
Yeah.
thing decided to,
If you had a fire. The only thing you're gonna fight it with is hands on the ground and from the
No,
air.
you're gonna fight it with your car headed over the state line
Yeah,
and down
right.
the freeway. You're just gonna have to run.
Yeah,
There's
That's
nothing you're gonna be
crazy.
able to do to stop that thing.
no, nothing.
Cause the fuel's
Mother Nature,
monumental.
right. Yeah. Not good.
Definitely gotta figure out a way to not let that happen.
Yeah.
And figure out a way to get
Well,
more of our land back to utilize and have some kind of an economy on.
you've got two very strong allies, and the third one needs to hear it, but Danes and Zinke are listening to the counties, and they're listening to public land, and so the more the commissioners hammer at them, and Tester needs to hear it, he needs to, because he's thinking everybody's in love with his
Yeah, wilderness.
butterfly farm, so, we just gotta kinda keep hammering at them, because when the questions come up, there are only three people, but there tends to be, if, like Bishop from Utah, the Natural Resource Committee, Zankowski with Alaska, some of those, there is leverage among the rural western counties to actually form a loggerhead to maybe shut off some of the eastern stuff. So the more that can be done to influence them with regards to how it impacts local. And so the same would go for someone that wants wilderness. Those are the people you gotta talk to convince them, so, one way or the other.
Well, the wilderness, it just seems like they're really in love with this Great Burn idea that they started in, 1971 or whatever, and I don't know. I don't know if there's any convincing those folks, but.
No, you're not gonna convince them. Their mind's fairly made up.
Mhm.
But the interesting thing was, you read the website, there's this blog of this guy that hikes from the Clearwater station there that burned up, and this is before it burned up, but he hiked clear through the thing and went over to Idaho and camped at Fish Lake, which is the only lake in the whole area that you can ride a motorcycle into, and then bellyached about having motorized in at Fish Lake.
Yeah.
He ran right through the wilderness area and camped over there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then bellyaches, it's like going to the beach and bitching about the salty water and the sand.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway,
Yeah, why did
it
he-
was so
yeah.
ludicrous.
Yeah.
Why did he
Oh,
camp at Siamese Lake? or
Protect the world.
Goose Lake or any
Yeah,
of those.
Heart Lake. Yeah.
But that's what people see when they bring up Great Burn. That's, like Tim said, that's where you head. It's very hard to find the actual federal government side of the Great Burn study area. It's really tough to find to get at the real information. Because you get this, they've bought off Google or somehow they figured it out. And anything you put into Great Burn, it goes right through there.
All right, any more discussion? Are we all done, or Kathleen, anything come to mind?
Actually,
That would be a good one next time you have Carol
I have
here.
a check
Yeah.
in my
Get her
office
with
for
it.
you.
Okay.
Charlie request a closed session to discuss some personal issues?
Yep, right now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just to see if broken jail cells or what?
Just a requirement from the Mako Insurance Company that the commissioners go through and make sure that there's a first aid kit hanging on the wall, a fire extinguisher charged, I mean, what else is on that checklist, little stuff like that. Make sure-
Charlie, you'll have a checklist printed out? Because I think last year we had a kind of a checklist to go through.
So at 2 o'clock, if you have budget amendments, cash transfers, and fund closeouts,
Is that today or tomorrow?
that's
Tomorrow.
Friday. So when you're doing that, so in the morning, you've had a discussion about reduction in force, with no decision being made, and then you have to do the budget, and then after the budget is when you'll be doing the reduction of force, when everything is, you got a clean slate then.
That's when we'll make the motion and whatever we're going to do. I wanted to have a little time from the time that the department head comes in and the public comes in, and what's set to, instead of just sitting there at that meeting and say, okay, we're gonna do this. I wanna have time to, you know,
Have them speak their case.
well, they're gonna speak their case and the public's gonna have their way in on it, and I wanna have time to, you know, contemplate on it, think about it a little bit, and, cause I don't wanna make a rash decision, and then, you know, I wanna have some time to think about it, and to make sure that what we're doing is what we should be doing, so. I didn't wanna, you know, have that meeting when everybody's in here, and then all of a sudden say, well, this is what we're gonna do, I wanna have time, and so that, and I did call Marcia, and I said, can we, you know, have the first meeting and have the input, and then have the final decision meeting later in the day, and she thought it was a good idea, because like even she said, you should be able to think about it a
And do
little
some
bit.
research or make a phone
Yeah.
call.
So,
So if it's gonna take you an hour to do the reduction in force final decision, is even that then negotiable during that hour?
I don't know.
Are you gonna have it all typed up on a page, you just hand it out and say, here it is?
No, we'll probably make a motion, say this is our recommendation for reduction in force, I'm assuming,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Well, if you say it's a recommendation,
Or this is.
The decision will happen
The
at 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the decision that we are making.
We will get all the input from everybody all morning and a little bit in the afternoon, and then 3 o'clock we'll have to.
They'll discuss it together amongst themselves, and, I mean, anything that they discuss on it is open to the public,
Yeah.
you know?
This is what Dwayne will have, maybe he'll have some other idea, Roman might have, and then we'll discuss it and
And then
Make a
decide which
decision.
ones, someone makes a motion, decide if that's one's gonna pass or not get seconded or be rejected and go on to the next.
so
item.
let me ask this, okay, so just in this particular case that we had this morning, where some funding comes from grants, that's off the table, and some funding comes from the general budget, that's what's on the table for
it's
for
just,
figuring things out.
Mm.
When we get a grant, and there's an expectation when the grant runs out that they continue to be paid out of the general fund, how does that fit into your planning?
So say again, what was that last part?
Okay, so you get a grant to
Yeah.
take a position and to do a certain thing, do a
Mhm.
certain job, with the constraint that when the grant runs out, that you have to then cover that position for another year or 2 years or whatever out of the general fund. Is that discretionary, and can you not fund it?
Well, like she said, a lot of the girls in her department know that when the grants end, so does the job. So what example would you be thinking of? Because we already have that understanding, even like the grant that the county attorney office got for assisting with filing and stuff. They all know when the grant's over with, so is their job. We're not gonna continue.
Okay, well, that's different than, I look at it like a three-year program. The grant pays for 1 year, and the county picks up the second and third year.
So what grant, can you be more specific? I think I only know of one grant like that.
Adams?
You can't say people's names.
Oh, well, what do you, well, no.
He asked, so I,
Yeah, I did.
You have to say investigator or probation or whatever.
okay, that's what I said.
Yeah, that's it.
So, you know, that's just one example I'm aware of.
Mhm.
But I thought that, you know, some of the sheriff positions, they get the COPS grant.
Right.
And you.
That's the only one I know of, is the COPS grant, that they have that criteria that after it's
So
funded.
how does that work in being discretionary in the second and third year? You know, can you say, well, we're not gonna do that anymore?
I think we can.
Well, then you have to
I mean,
feedback.
I think what they don't want you to do is they don't want you to take the grant, and then as soon as the grant, they're done paying for it, then you riff the job.
Right.
If we, the ones we've had, we've been paying them for a year or more, and this is, so they know that we weren't taking advantage of the grant. Now we're at the position where we can't.
The whole point of
Fund.
that kind of a grant, like, let's say the COPS grant, that's the only grant that I know of that requires that you keep an employee on so many months after the grant ends. The whole premise of that grant was so that way you have an opportunity, you have a time period in which you can have a steady stream of a funding source found to continue to pay for that person. So when you get that grant, say in year one, you have year 1, year 2, and year 3 to find that steady source of revenue for that position to pay someone and to keep somebody. But all the other grants that Mineral County has, when the grant is done, and let's say there's money left over, some grants allow you to keep it until the money's gone. Other grants require you to return the money, any money that you haven't spent, and that person's position is done. And whenever you hire anybody on a grant, like when I was hired on a grant here, the county attorney made it very clear this is for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, you may or may not have a job anymore. So those employees know that.
So, just out of curiosity, this wouldn't be directly under the county, but let's say that there was some grant that was made available for an administrative assistant for, let's just take the a conservation district or something like that. When those, if that grant would run out, what would happen to that employee?
I'd be gone.
You can't name a name there.
I'm that person. I would be, when the grant, if we were not to be renewed, the conservation district could choose to
Lower your wage or?
either eliminate my position and have the board maintain the stuff, or use savings to pay until they can find another source of revenue.
I mean, so there's all kinds of those permutations, but going back to the general fund though, those are the dollars that we've got to manipulate and get covered. And so I'm just trying to figure out some way that is for other ways to get grants. Is that beneficial or not beneficial to us by having too many grants strung out from here to there?
I think grants are a pain in the rear end myself. They're great, but if they're ran well, but there's so many things that you have to do. I mean, go ask Jessica all the stuff we have to do, all the federal reporting. I mean, we have to maintain our DUNS number, we have to,
Well, even after the grant's done, then they can go file for unemployment, and it comes back on the county.
and if there's a match, that's the other thing.
Or annual and sick leave, if that's not
PERS.
if that's not written into the grant, then the county ends up having to pick that up.
The biggest thing is health insurance, because the law requires us, because we're an ALE, which is a large employer, that we provide health insurance for anything over 30 hours.
100%?
100%. Well, whatever our
Policy
policy
is.
is. We need to get to a point where the commissioners say, no, I'm sorry, employees have to contribute $200 towards their health insurance. But the grant, if they don't cover health insurance, and they only cover salaries, and they're a 40-hour-a-week or a 30-hour-a-week employee, the county is required by law to provide health insurance for that person.
Okay, so is the health insurance aspect of the general fund, is that something, since it's our policy to pay 100%, is there something that we can do, go down and say, well, we'll pay 50% and save the county money?
I'm a little so the health insurance,
You said it had to do with policy, so can you change the policy?
sure. The commissioners can do whatever they want.
So,
No, we can't. No, we can't.
They can
Guaranteed we can't.
They could, I've seen some places where it's set up on a pay scale, like you pay in, everybody, what they pay in is different, so if you make this amount of money, you're making minimum wage, you pay $100. If you're making $20 an hour, you pay $200. If you make more than that, you pay $300 an hour, a month for your health insurance. Every place is different. the fact that Mineral County continues to pay for health insurance 100%
You
is,
need something, Tim? We're just yakking.
What's that?
You can jump in, we're just yakking here.
I'm planning to be out of the area tomorrow, so I was just kinda wondering if there was gonna be something that I should pay attention to. Or just let you know that I was gonna have Candace come down and sit on those meetings just so that she could tell me
It
what.
doesn't affect him anyways.
Yeah, none of the, did you see the email of kind of the suggested recommended target areas to look at? Your office isn't currently one of them, but yeah, if she wants.